Black English is what happened when African slaves, who were already adults, learned English very quickly. So, various things happened to it. One thing that happened to it was that their English became a little bit simplified because, as we all know, it's harder to learn a language as an adult than as a child. So there are aspects of Black English where things that are in standard English are elided, and so not using the verb to be as much. Now, we're often told that those not usings of the verb to be are very systematic and regular, and they are, but it still matters that verb to be isn't used as much. There are various things like that in Black English where standard English is abbreviated somewhat. There are other aspects of Black English, though, that are markers of the fact that it was an in-group code, that it was human language like all languages, and therefore it developed complexities of its own. So if you hear a Black person saying, "She be working there every Tuesday," you hear the be and you think, well, that person didn't conjugate the be, and they didn't. But that usage of the be indicates very explicitly that there's something that the person does habitually, that is, every Tuesday. The person would not look out the window and say, oh, there she be walking by. That's minstrel. That's not the way
We as Black people tend to use a form of language called Ebonics. And when I get into an environment or in a room full of highly educated people who aren't Black or won't clearly understand what I'm saying, I have to turn to a different approach and then speak extremely proper.
Talk about color or the so-called Black versus white English. That's when we see the prejudice and judgment come into play, even though the situation of a white person growing up around Black people or vice versa is basically the exact same concept as the northerner developing the southern slang.
Being so used to this language, you tend to use it everywhere you go, such as school, hospitals, all things like that. So when you tend to talk like that all the time, it kind of impacts your life.
19-year-old Rachel Jeantel, not on trial in the George Zimmerman case, yet critics ripped her performance on the stand.
And then I say, Trayvon, and then he said, why are you following me for? And then I heard a hard breath man come and say, what you doing right here?
Okay, so Columbia University English professor John McWhorter is back with me here in New York. He wrote a book called Winning the Race Beyond the Crisis in Black America. You thought that people said, oh, I don't understand her, she's not very articulate. You thought she was quite eloquent.
She was very articulate. I think people did understand her. She's speaking Black English, and a lot of people think Black English is just bad grammar, but that's like saying that a Cocker Spaniel is a bad kind of Saint Bernard. They're different kinds of English. If you dropped a Martian into South Central LA, the Martian would have as hard a time figuring out the grammatical rules, yes, rules of Black English as they would the English that you and I are speaking right now. She grew up speaking Black English and she's using it, and there's a tendency to look at it as something that's wrong.
My solutions to Black English include, first, teaching kids in elementary schools more about cultures and other languages. I would love for them to know that speaking English does not come in only one form. Like Black English, it comes in many forms. Second, I would love to post my video on YouTube or Twitter to reach out to the younger generations and upcoming generations on social media, teaching them about the Black English. And finally, of course, sending my video out to colleges for kids who are taking linguistic courses to help them understand, too, the meaning of Black English and where it comes from.